Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Hope you've had a great week. It's good to see you all. Thank you for being punctual. If you can hear me, just wave a hand or something, or you can just put it up on your. Awesome. How is everyone doing? We good? Now, just some house rules as we allow one or two people to still join us. As you know, this is a discussion forum. You don't necessarily have to have your videos on. If you're more comfortable with that, that's fine. I'll be taking us through a series of I'll be taking us through a series of slides to kind of guide the conversation. Other than that, we are good to go. Um, at the end, if you do have any questions or you find yourself asking questions, please feel very free to write out your questions in the chat. Just write out your questions in the chat, and at the end of the discussion, we will try and attack as many as possible. So if during the course of the discussion you do have a question, please just type it out so that way we can get through as much as possible before the question and answer session. And if you find out that during the answer session your question has been answered, then we're good. All right, so that's about it for that. I have muted your mics, obviously, because wherever you may be, we don't necessarily want the noise filtering in. And even if you're in a quiet place, it's great. It just allows us all to focus and concentrate. My name is Segun Lawal. I'll be doing introductions properly in a minute. So that's it. At some point in time, like I said, we'll finish with the slides and we'll go straight into it. I want to respect your time. We are recording this. We're also live on YouTube for those who may want to revisit this session later. It will be available on my link, which I will post before the end of the class. And you can always just visit it, or you can just run a search for Segun Lawal's channel on YouTube. All right, so we are good to go. Let's get straight into it now. All right, everybody. Again, a very good morning to you all. I am extremely honored to be able to share with you some learnings I have gained over the years. This session is a free session. It is titled Grow from Talent to Influence. Many of you joining are already extremely talented. I don't know what you're doing here, but that's just a joke, right? You are talented, but talent is not enough. As you do soon discover, we are in a world where you need to be able to have an impact. And I'm hoping that beyond your need for economic satisfaction is your need for social satisfaction, is your need to be able to feel accomplished in this life. And there are a couple of principles I would like to share with us today. It will not be more than 45 minutes or so, and then you will have the opportunity to ask questions. So I've just prepared a few things. I have good friends all over this planet who are always telling me to do this. They're saying, Segun, share your thoughts, record it, whatever. And I'm usually the most reluctant person to do so, as you will find out soon. But anyway, please do pay attention, take notes. This will be available on YouTube after in case you think you missed anything. And we'll talk soon. So who is SL? Who am I? Well, there's this quote I really love saying there's value in approach. It's really important when you want to approach someone, especially for the first time, to have it in mind what it is you want to say, how you want to come across. And I think the first thing I would probably say is I'm reluctant. Now, I know reluctant doesn't sound like a very positive word, but the truth is there have been many situations in my life that have been literally thrown into. And I find myself being the kind of person that doesn't like things not done properly and end up being the one to put up my hand, and I always seem to get trashed with all the work. Coaching and mentoring and training and teaching is something I've been doing for the better part of 30 years, but I've never really been particularly inspired to do it on any formal level. But as it is, I think there is a need in society, which we'll talk about as we go along. And if you have something, you share it. That's part of why God has blessed you with whatever giftings you have. So I'm schooled. I am privileged to be a fellow with the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. That happened way back in 2008. when I was selected by the United States States Secretariat, along with the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, for the work that I have been doing by God's grace in Spirit of David, and as of that time, with the Society for the Performing Arts in Nigeria, SPAN. So I was the first to be selected in that category, to be given a fellowship award in the performing arts. Since then, I've learned several techniques and strategies that can help not just artists, but anybody who is a decision maker in corporate Nigeria, anywhere they may be. And I've had the opportunity to sit under very, very, very talented people, very knowledgeable people. I'm constantly trying to learn, and I believe that's why you're here too, to learn a thing or two from this session. I am driven. I have had the privilege of being the head of Spirit of David, which is a gospel dance club, for the last 23 years. We have held 99 shows to date. We have not repeated any. We're presently working on our 100th show, which is going to be a movie. And we tend to take on things that are way beyond our immediate capacity. But the truth of the matter is, as you'll be learning soon enough, you've got to be driven by a dream. And it's really, really, really critical to have what you want in mind and to just go for it. And I've been very privileged in Spirit of David to be surrounded by dreamers, to be surrounded by people who know how to count the cost. And they've taught me a thing or two. And hopefully I can return the favor today. Am I inspired? Absolutely. You have to be inspired. You have to be driven by more than the facts, more than the things that are around you. I'm inspired without shame by the Holy Spirit. I believe in God the Father, the Son, and I believe that in this season we need to be wise in the field that God has given us. We need to be relevant in our generation, whatever that may mean to you, but we also have to be inspired. We have to be able to inspire people to do more. So, first thing you need to ask yourself is, what is my approach to what I want to do? Well, that's me. We're going to talk about you now. And I generally think that life has become this production line, right? If you notice, everybody tends to want to gravitate towards the same thing at some point in time or the other. If you're old enough, you probably remember that there was a time everybody wanted to be an accountant, and then everybody was going into, was it computer something or the other software, and everybody was in NIIT or something. And it just always seems to be a fad that everybody follows. And that's fine. That's society for you. That's okay. But if life is like a production line, this is you at the very beginning. And what are some of the things that everybody's into now? Well, online everything. Now, I know I'm saying that from an online platform, so it sounds a bit hypocritical, but the truth is the world has gone berserk when it comes to online. It's online everything. You know, if we could online eat, we would probably do just that. But this is also affecting you. It's influencing your decisions. It's influencing your choices. And you need to be aware of what that means to you and for you, especially as it relates to your goals and your visions. What else has become the norm? The social media bandwagon. Everybody, I mean, somebody asked me the question, how can I utilize my social media platforms to further and advance my career? And it's a good question. And it's one that we'll be answering, not just at least a little in this class, but more importantly, in the advanced level class that you'll be able to join a little later, not today. So there is the social media bandwagon. There is a reason why social media is so effective in connecting with the hearts and minds of people. And there's training galore. Like I said earlier, I'm a very reluctant coach. And I was telling one of my friends who helped me consult in this project, I said, look, I don't want to be part of the bandwagon of trainers out there. I mean, everybody suddenly seems to be an authority in one thing or the other. Well, the truth is that there is so much information out there, and it's a good thing. But because we have limited resources and limited time, you need to be guided to the person you believe is tailor fit to help you make key decisions about your life and your career. And that's why you have trainers. And there's some incredible people out there doing an incredible work. But what I believe you will learn today is that very necessary blend between what you consider to be your ambition, your vision, your career, and the purpose of your life. And so, yes, we have online everything. Yes, there's a social media bandwagon. Yes, there's training galore. And you at the end of the production line seem to be the one coming out at the end of it. So what should be your course expectations today before we get into it? I need to be very clear. What you expect to hear is different from what you should be ready to learn. Many of us go into training sessions or go into classes like this and we want to hear particular things. Not bad. But more important, you should be ready to learn. Some wise person once said, you can't catch a ball if there's already one in your hand. So I want us to approach this with a blank sheet. As accomplished as you may be, and I respect that, I appreciate that, I'm going to ask that you have a notebook in front of you that is empty, you have a pen that is full, and you generally come with an idea that I want to learn. I want to start again. I want to reach my goals. I want to grow from being talented to being influential. And I believe that Segun Lawal has something, even if it's just a line or a phrase, that can help me achieve that. The next thing you need to have as an expectation is to know this, that this session will not be enough. I'm not going to pretend, right? And I'm not going to, in any form or fashion, deceive anyone here. This 45-minute session, even if it was for 45 hours, would not be sufficient to compress all the many years and experiences that I've personally had in 30 years of leading men, training men, raising men, and basically converting something that is a gift into a talent into an influence. But it is a good start. And like I said at the bottom, the best way to start is to say, I have no idea. But you need to realize it would not be enough. Already, there will be provision made for those of you who want to move to level 2 of this training course to do so later. But you will get more. I mean, look, I tell people all the time, a slice of cake will offer you the same thing as the whole cake, right? Nobody eats a slice of cake and it tastes different from the rest of it, right? So you're going to get a full-scale course today, level 1 of growing talent to influence, without doubt. But I just want you to know that level 1 will not be enough for you. So what are you here to do? You are here to stimulate imaginative consciousness. You are here to inspire intelligent thought and to take a deep dive towards a transformative agenda. I have been privileged over the years to not just teach or train, but to be used to transform. I honestly believe you cannot go about doing a what until the who is addressed. And that's why we need more capacity building training classes, right? I have a teenage son. The guy can eat much more than I can. He has the capacity to eat more than I can. And even if a table is spread in front of me full of the best food in the world, you can only eat as much as the capacity you have within you. And that's why it's really important for us to build build capacity to learn, build capacity to be driven, and then you'll be able to absorb more. So I'm hoping that something about today will spark an imaginative thought. I'm hoping that you will think a little more deliberately towards your desired goal, and that you would know your superpower. Let me talk about that very briefly. We all have at least one superpower, and I really do believe that. I've talked to people over the years who say, look, I don't know my gifting, I don't know my talent, I don't know what I'm good at. Well, everybody comes factory fitted with something. And by the time you're able to understand it more, it becomes a supernatural ability. Now, for some, it is just being able to listen. And I'm a chaplain. I'm a chaplain with the United States Chaplain Organization, TOSCO. And part of the training is to learn how to actively listen to people. There's every temptation when you counsel people to just talk, or when you're teaching to just go on and on and on and on. But listening could be your power. For some people, it's the ability to structure and organize and administrate things. Everybody has one. And it's really important for you to identify it because, listen, if there is a huge rock in front of you and your superpower is to read minds, as opposed to having supernatural strength, reading minds is not going to help you lift that rock. It means that each of us have to, first of all, identify what's my superpower and how is it applied? What is it God has given me and where can it be applied? Because it will simply be frustrating if there is wrong application of your natural gifting. And part of what trainings like this is help you identify what your gifting is and where it can be applied. You also need to understand something we call value exchange demands self-development. Now, back in the day, before there was a currency like money or whatever, people used to trade by barter. And that meant everybody had to have something to offer. And it's the same today. We can't afford to strictly be money driven. We need to be able to be value driven. Part of knowing your superpower is saying, what is the value I bring? What kind of value do I bring? And then to understand there will be value exchange, right? The higher you go, the richer you become. Super powerful people don't really spend money anymore. They exchange value. So there is value exchange, and you need to demand yourself to raise your value levels. Also realize that, like I said before, if someone's superpower is I can read minds, or I'm understanding, or I listen, somebody else says I'm resilient, I've got grit, then you need to realize that you are part of a larger puzzle. And what you contribute in terms of your ability helps an overall machinery. One of the things you will learn is not to be isolated. You need to learn to build a team of collaborators that have unique skills, unique giftings, unique talents. We'll learn a bit more about that later. Shared experience. I think it's really important to have people with you that you can build shared experiences with, especially if you're entering a new phase of life. You can't afford to constantly look back at your mistakes, at your shortcomings. Now, the mere fact that you're part of a community of 130 registered people who are part of this particular session today means you are part of a community. You're sharing an experience. This is now a shared experience platform. And that experience or that shared platform inspires change, because now you're going to start thinking differently. You're going to challenge yourself beyond what you are naturally used to. A friend of mine, Fred Williams, we're always talking about alternative messaging platforms, what we call AMPs. And I believe one of the AMPs that is developing today are shared experiences, where people can come together and share experiences and from them develop new material that they can use in their workplaces or their visions. So, on your marks, this is a transformation in mentality, right? It's clear that you are only transformed when your mind is renewed, right? You've got to change the way you think. And if there's anything we've learned in these times, especially with all the world is going through, is that anything can be disrupted easily. And we need to have ways and platforms in which we allow ourselves to be mentally challenged. It is a dangerous thing to hold on to one ideal constantly without at least presenting it to critique by minds and by people you believe have your good at heart. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to hope that we transform your mentality towards your talent and towards influence and what that means. Two, creativity is actually an economic territory. Creativity rules the world right now, right? It is the largest single market. There is no HR personnel today that will not tell you the same thing. When you're looking to hire people for a new role, you want them to be adaptable, you want them to be creative, you want them to embrace innovation. Creativity is among the top desired skill sets for anybody seeking a job or a role today, right? And we are using a platform that was created by one person or the other. And you probably are connecting to this through a device that is another sign of creativity. And you probably have a social media handle. TikTok today is the most downloaded app in the world. Again, creative. And millions and billions of people are getting on the creative bandwagon. Creativity is an economic territory. In this country, Nigeria, as I'm sure it is anywhere in the world, creativity and various creativity platforms are driving millions and billions of dollars. And one of the things we need to understand is that economic territory is divided largely into two parts. There's content and there's what I call the container. There is new wine and there is new wine skin. There is realizing that there are some people that would be content providers. That's their skill, that's their talent. And there are people like me who have a content background, whose desire now is to take your content, package it, manage it, develop it, so that it will have the container that it needs. And these two factors, understanding content and understanding its management, leads to an economic territory. More and more, even in this country, especially if you're in the creative industry, you would have recognized that there is more attention being paid to what we do. even from right up to the presidency. I was speaking with chatting with Daria Altalade the other day, who is on the committee, the presidential committee, and says, look, Shegs, we need to take our opportunity. We really do. Nobody's going to be left behind. How do we take this opportunity? I was also speaking with Bolande Austin Peters of Terraculture, and she said, look, it's all about developing capacity. So that it's not just about content, it's about your management. But let's get to the work of today, right? Influencers understand emotional, spiritual, and intellectual infiltration. Now, the truth is, if you're going to be successful today in whatever it is, you're going to have to understand these three things. Your audience and your market are emotional. They are spiritual, and they are intellectual. And these form your three basic market segments in terms of the way they think and how they make their decisions. And you cannot be influential without infiltrating some aspect of their thinking or the other. So ask yourself, what's the emotional connect in my target market? What do they emotionally connect to? There is a rapper that I really love following, his NF. I think he's a talent. And he emotionally connects with people who have had challenges mentally, who are in a place where they need to be encouraged. And so that's his emotional connect, for instance. There are people who have a more corporate connect. There are people, therefore, who are more intellectual in their connections. If you're going to influence, you're going to have to learn to infiltrate these three areas because everyone is under one influence or the other. All right, so let's define success, all right? Because if I ask you guys out there, do you want to be successful? I'll be shocked if anybody says no. I'll be like, why are you here? Everybody wants to be successful. The thing is, frustration starts when you're not able to answer this question. What is success? Because for some people, success is 10 followers. For some people, it's 10 million. Some people cry when they don't have 20,000 likes. Some people, success is a mansion in the hills. For some people, success is a brand new SUV. But as much as possible, I want us to take a look at what defines success for us. So when you quickly take a look at these things, maybe you'll be able to have a new definition of success and you'll be able to have a more targeted approach to achieving your goals. Well, first of all, is it money? Well, the thing is that money serves a perceived value. So there is a perceived value. If I say, for instance, that this car is $20,000, but this other car is $200,000, and I ask you which of those cars is better, chances are you're going to say it's a $200,000 car because money serves a perceived value. Now, in as much as I know this session is a free online course, because in particular, some of the things I was given today, I was freely given and freely shall I give. The truth is the advanced level of this course does have a money value, and that money value is not set on affordability. You see, where you are, right? If you keep thinking affordability, you will attack value. You need to be able to set a value on yourself and a value on your product, and you will attract likewise. So this is a free session, but level 2 will not be. Don't worry, it won't be that expensive. But you need to be able to understand that if you define success as money, you are seeing it as a perceived value. The second thing is numbers. Is success numbers? You know, I mentioned earlier that some people have millions of followers, and there is a perception that once you do, then you must be very successful. People must follow you a lot. I'm a very private person, and even doing this alone took a lot of convincing. You know, my daughter picked out my shirt. I mean, literally. And I realized that I am not a numbers guy. I just don't like numbers. But some people see numbers as a sign or as an indicator of success because it offers a sense of security. So you need to be able to ask yourself, what would I see as success in my business? Would it be producing 10,000 units of my product every month? Would it be making $10,000 every week? How would I perceive success? Some people perceive success in terms of longevity, which means that my brand, my influence, my talent keeps building on what is proven. I mentioned earlier being privileged to head Spirit of David. And over the years, we've kept building on what we've done. We've gone to almost 50 cities of the world. And it's been an incredible journey to work with incredible people. And I do not think I know of another dance group that has lasted as long as SOD for 23 years, that has done as much in terms of reach, in terms of impact. And so longevity could be a success measure there. That doesn't mean if you've been doing things for only 1 year, you're not successful. No. Here, what we're trying to ask ourselves is, how do you define success for yourself? And you have to be honest about it. If it's money, say it's money. If it's numbers, say it's numbers. If it's longevity, say so. And the reason why I'm saying this is because before we really deep dive into this, you need to ask yourself, what is success for me? And I will tell you this, success isn't about just attaining, it's about dominion. It's not just about getting to number one, it's about staying at number one. So influence has two goals, right? And I need you to understand this as we go along. We want to grow from talent to influence, but influence has two goals. The first goal is what I call the mob effect. By the time you put out all your emotions on social media, by the time you say wear masks, don't wear masks, by the time you say, oh, there's a conspiracy, there's no conspiracy theory, what that is trying to do is to build what is called a mob effect, is to build numbers who would generate emotions, who would hopefully, in their perception, guide policy. Now, many of you, especially if you're on social media or you're on WhatsApp, you will discover that some of the things you're reading or viewing cause you to be part of, hey, I'm feeling this way about this subject matter. Who else feels this way? Who else is feeling this way? And it creates that mob effect. It magnifies topics and it develops an emotional sway towards something. Now, why are we saying this? Because ultimately we're moving from talent to influence. And you need to understand that influence will build two things. It will build a mob effect, but it will also install a leader. It will want to build an authority figure, a personification of your beliefs. Who would sign the policy? So that person deals with policy execution, deals with sustained governance, and effects systemic rule. This is really important because influence ultimately has these two branches, has these two goals: to influence a mob or a large number of people towards policy or emotional change, and to install a perceived leader in that regard. Now, if you want to be influential, you got to recognize that some of the campaigns and strategies that you and I will work on in depth in subsequent sessions will have to affect a mob and will have to raise a personification of your values. So the question is, how do I grow from talent to influence? And it's a valid question, one in which I cannot exhaust today. And already looking at the time, so much time has passed and there's still so much to still say. And I do want to keep in time so I can respect your program for the day. Well, the truth is that I'm going to introduce certain theories today for the first time. I have many brothers and sisters, friends, colleagues that are listening in, that are watching this. And if they're not available to do so now, they'll probably watch the YouTube stream later. And a couple of them I'm very accountable to. I submit myself to their counsel, their leadership, their thoughts. And this is something we've been discussing, at a private level. And I'm sure you've thought about it too. There has to be more to just being talented. There has to be more to being a dancer or an entrepreneur or a media mogul. There has to be a more defined influence that comes from it. And so these are my thoughts. The first way you're going to grow from talent to influence is to cultivate a prestige. Now, I want you to look at these 8 schools in the US. They're very popular. They're very prestigious. And you've probably heard of one or two, if not all of them before. They are typically called the Ivy League schools. And some of them are really old. A school like Harvard started in 1636 or so. But the Ivy League itself started in 1954 or so. And believe it or not, the Ivy League started as a sports conference. And these 8 schools are so difficult to get into. So the first thing you need to realize is that I need to cultivate prestige. And when I looked at the figures, these are recent figures, current figures. Over 300,000 Ivy League applications for the class of 2023 were a record high this year. Unfortunately, 6.78% acceptance rate across all schools is a record low. meaning just a little over 21,000 students out of over 300,000 will get into an Ivy League school, will get into all of these schools combined. What does that say? It says that for you to command that kind of influence, you need to build prestige. You need to build and cultivate a culture of excellence that will not be compromised. Now, I recognize at the end of the day, for instance, I have people here who I've worked with over the years, excellent people. But I know that if you and I are going to take this learning beyond this, and we're going to build an Ivy League of creative minds, of inspirational minds, we know, frankly, it won't be for everyone. We know it's going to take commitment, it's going to take resources, and it's going to take consistent levels of excellence. But what interests me about this Ivy League is not just what you know about them, but it's actually how they started. Do you know that most of the colleges in the United States that started so many years ago, do you know that they were Bible proclaiming schools originally? Harvard and Yale were originally Puritan, and Princeton was originally Presbyterian. Do you know that Harvard was named after a Christian minister? Yale after a clergyman, and Princeton's first year of classes were taught by a reverend. Till today, Princeton's crest is still in Latin, and it means under God she flourishes. I'm going somewhere. In the UK, Cambridge University was established in 1209 by Christian leaders. St. Andrew, Scotland's oldest university, was founded principally for the teaching and study of theology. And many of the later colleges were founded by Bible-believing Christians. Now, you don't have to go too far. Here in Nigeria, I dare say education owes a huge debt to missionaries. Christian missionaries that came into this country and established schools. Like my alma mater, where I finished secondary school in Calabar, Hope Waddell. The truth of the matter is that missionaries and Christians have always had an impact on, for want of a better word, secular education. And the Ivy League schools I just mentioned that have such a stingy rate of acceptance began through excellent values of Christians. And I know I'm saying that in particular because many of us have this conflict, and I've experienced the same thing. Oh, I'm a Christian, I don't necessarily want to preach, I don't want to have to bring my values into the workplace. But if you think about it, that's part of the challenges we're having today. Our values as Christians should have an impact in our world. I'm always saying, what good is divinity if it doesn't affect humanity? And you see that some of the best schools in the world were begun by Christians. And I'm of the opinion that some of the best trainers in this country, friends like Fela, friends like Steve Harris, friends like Bankole Williams, who I know are devout Christians, are also skilled enough, smart enough, streetwise enough to affect secular industries. Now, this is important because I honestly believe a time is coming where a new Ivy League of creative, intelligent, spiritual, and emotional people, and I'm looking at them right now, even if you can't, well, you can see me, I can't see you, but I know you're there. You're about to form the Princetons of this country. And we're about to form the Cambridges of this world all over again, especially when it comes to creative endeavor. Now, this is really important because there's a couple of books. Harvard Business Review is one of the most respected publications in the world. And a lot of their articles refer to biblical principles. And I have something I call the paraboletic Jesus. And the paraboletic Jesus is constantly sharing proven truths, but he manages to impart it in an everyday way. And a lot of the stories, if you want, in the Bible have applications in the world today. Some of them are even medical. Long before we had viruses and how to treat them, there were conditions on how men should live hygienically from Old Testament days. And I'm always saying that the scriptures are meant to, especially the Bible, is meant to be a reference for how we can administrate and live today in our current environment. And I think, I really do believe, I've read a number of journals. One of them I made a reference to here. You can check it out some other time. Biblical Principles for Resilience in Leadership. And it's by Carlos Serrano. There's also Jesus CEO, which is great reading. And what these things aim to do is take biblical principles and teach management theories. So you will notice, for instance, this topic is growing from talents to influence. If you remember Matthew 25, the story of the talents, those who developed their talents were given influence over people. In verse 21 of Matthew 25, it says, "Thou hast been faithful over a few things, the talents, I will make you ruler of many." So even the scriptures are consistent with a view that if you develop your talent, you will automatically be set in a position of ruling and influence. Beyond the spiritual, there are thousands of corporate governance, arts management, resource economic strategies, political and socially relevant principles found in the world's #1 bestseller. And for the few remaining minutes, I want to pull a few that would guide you in infiltration and influence in today's class. The research is from Daniel 1. And that Daniel 1 research is really, really cool. Remember, this is a story about a worldly king called Nebuchadnezzar who took over Jerusalem. And there are key things I want to bring out. Daniel 1:1 says, "In the 3rd year of the reign of Joachim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and he basically besieged Jerusalem." I'm going to talk about besieging. "And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of the eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel and the king's seed and of the princes." And then there's verse 4. Verse 4 we're not going to look at in this session because our time is fast spent. But there are aspects of verse 4. You can see no blemish, well-favored, skillful, etc. that form today's training material, training tools, standard characteristics that you're going to have an influence in this world. Remember, Nebuchadnezzar wasn't a godly man, but he employed some incredible principles to take over what was one of the most strongest cities, defended cities in the world. And we're going to quickly take a look at that. Level 1 talks about domination. And to dominate means you're going to build plans. Most of them will be done in secret. From domination, you have to set up rank and structure. I'll talk about that briefly. And there are 3 things that are mentioned in the verses we just read: to besiege, to be a eunuch, and to be certain. Well, in essence, what they mean is to have a strategy, to develop discipline, and to be deliberate. Let me quickly talk about them. Now, first of all, when it comes to dominate, if we go back, we see that the first thing that Nebuchadnezzar set out to do was dominate. All right? And we need to recognize that the same principles are being effected in the world today. Right? Anybody that wants to be successful, please don't just think about making money. You have to think of dominating. And that means you need to spend a great deal of time visualizing the goal, gaining the victory, and then sustaining the reward. Success is in the dominating, not attaining. Is in the dominating, not attaining. I don't want to use sports references because we'll be here all day, but football is an example. It's not just enough to win the league or win one trophy. You need to consistently win in order to say you are among the best, in order to dominate. So I'm going to quickly give you tips on how to do that. 1, imagine. Spend time imagining what you want. Have a time of the day. Put aside maybe 30 minutes without your phone, without the TV, and just let your imagination go. It is really important to allow yourself to think beyond your present reality. Number 2, critique. Do not be afraid to question yourself, to question what you want to do. I've mentioned that every time I'm given a vision by God to do something or the other, whether it's to go to Australia for the team or to do something great, I form a team and I tell the team, critique this. This is my imagination. Critique what you think is wrong with this. And I'm sure when Nebuchadnezzar was developing his plans, he got a team. He says, I imagine taking over Jerusalem. What do we need to do? And he brought a team that critiqued it. Then you got to have what is called gentle strength. You shouldn't fight every battle, right? It's not every single thing that comes your way that someone tries to pick a fight with you that you're saying, I'm going to prove to this person that I'm better than them. I'm currently in 1 or 2 disputes here and there, and it's really not a big deal. I've come to the conclusion that true power doesn't always fight. In The Art of War, written by Sun Tzu, he talks about that a lot. He says a victory doesn't have to end in the death of your enemies, but rather in their subjugation or in their submission. So you need to learn to have gentle strength. And then finally, the main thing about domination is to build a plan. Artistic planning is one of the subject matters I'll be teaching in depth in level 2, because that is where it all comes down to. A lot of us need to improve our planning abilities, whether as business people, as individuals, whether we run a company or an institution or an organization. We need to learn planning techniques. So these things take a while. I've done a course on planning, for instance, that was 11 weeks or 11 months that involved learning how to plan. So level 2 is really important. And I'm saying this constantly because I know that in the next few minutes or so, I'm going to be done. And I'm going to encourage you to get into level 2 of this course. The next thing we saw in that organogram was rank. You are unsuccessful if your system or structure cannot operate without you. Word. Now, I know a lot of us are building personal empires. But you see, a system is not built on an empire. Because once something happens to you, it all comes crashing down. So one of the things you need to understand when you're building systems is to develop a structure, right? I don't care how small your organization is. You must have a structure. You must be able to say, this is this department, this is what I do here, this is what, build a structure. It may not be waterproof at first, but have one. We'll be talking more about structure and hierarchy in level 2. Hierarchy was seen obviously when in Daniel 1, we saw that Nebuchadnezzar put someone in place, the master of the eunuchs, to go and find certain Jews or Hebrews. And that talks of delegation. Something a lot of us need to learn is how to delegate. And remember, one of the things I said earlier is you don't delegate to someone you don't believe has the skill set to manage your dream. And so you need to increase your talent pool. Again, shared experience. You know who I am. There are several people on this in this meeting right now, on this call, who are extremely talented. And you know what? It may do you no harm whatsoever to just write something in the chat and say, this is what I do. Who knows? During the question and answer session, someone may reach out to you and say, I've been looking for someone just like you. So have a hierarchical system. Have ranks, people who do things, this is what this person does, and so on and so forth. You must always have respect. In this besieging, there was no way that Nebuchadnezzar disrespected his enemies. It's not written anywhere. And at the end of the day, you have to realize that on the road from talent to influence, you must show a great deal of respect. I believe I walk in that personally. I do not believe whatever you've done, you deserve to be disrespected. And I think it's part of developing your ranks. Finally, management. It is impossible, absolutely impossible to have rank or structure and not have management. Now, I mentioned earlier, I'm a fellow. One of the things I've been taught in depth is arts management. It is absolutely essential, whatever it is you do, whether you run a creative company or a business, to have a solid understanding of management systems. Again, beyond this class, we'll be teaching this in depth. The second thing is, or the third thing is besieging. To besiege means to surround a place, especially with an army, to prevent people or supplies getting in or out. So what does that mean? Well, when you're growing your talent, you need to smother your audience, literally smother them. And what Nebuchadnezzar did here was that he surrounded the city and cut off their supply chain. He said, all you are ever going to hear is my product, or I'm going to redefine music in my generation. And everywhere you go, you're going to hear my kind of music. It is really important for you to have what I call a plan. It's important because we are people that have a lot of information going through us, and we tend to sieve that information based on what we hear more often. The second thing that happens when you besiege is you need to have tact in territorial advantage. That means you need to have a bit of tact. I keep saying you are not sent to everyone. I mean, we are 7 billion on this planet. You are not going to reach 7 billion people. You need to be able to identify those that you can reach. Now, I recognize on this call, I'm extremely grateful for the people who have chosen to spend their Saturday morning with me today. And I recognize that you have a particular skill, you have a particular talent, you're learning principles, you're building your capacity right now in how to move from talent to influence. But you need to be able to identify who your market is, who are the people that you can have the most influence on, and to look at what their territory is. Every single campaign, especially military campaign, takes time to study the territory before they invade it. You need to have material on where it is you want to have influence before you go any further. Identify the supply chains. That means for everybody, every sector, every market, every industry you want to influence, there are supply chains. Just like Jerusalem has supply chains. Besieging means you identify the supply chains and you control them. We're going back to platforms. What are the supply chains to people's emotions in this generation? Where do people get their spiritual high? You're going to have to recognize that there are certain routes, certain platforms, certain roads where people get their injection of education, fun, entertainment. Those are the supply chains. We need to identify them in your immediate niche, in your target audience, and ask yourself, how can I be a part of that supply chain? Or how can I actually influence it? Also, guide the narrative. Again, and I must apologize, a lot of what we're learning now is an in-depth introduction. Any single one of these topics can be taken in-depth. And the truth is, like the Ivy League schools, they've taken a lot of time to build prestige. I am hoping that from this course, from those of you who are watching, there'll be a people that will say, you know what, I really think I need to go in-depth in my management course, in my study of talent to influence. I want to do more with this. You'll be extremely welcome to. And that takes me to campaigns. A campaign is much more than publicity. Campaigns have an agenda. Whether you realize it or not, you presently live in a world full of campaigns. I mean, there are agendas left, right, and center at the moment. And it goes beyond just making you aware. It is an attempt, like I said earlier, to sway your emotions to affect policy. So when we talk about the eunuch, again, we're still referring to Daniel 1. This is what comes to mind. It takes a special kind of commitment to dramatically remove any chance of falling away from a defined path. A eunuch is a person who has made such a commitment to their master or a cause that there is no way they can even turn back on it. And I think that's really key, because if you're going to be successful, and not just successful, an influencer, it's all or nothing. I've spent the last 23 years of my life basically serving completely in a non-for-profit area. And it means there's no salary back to back. It means there's never really a defined income source for you. But I've seen the impact that my journey has had on literally thousands of lives. And I'm extremely humbled by it. I give God the glory for it. But it would have been impossible if you're not an all or nothing kind of person. 2, you need to deblood. Now, there's a term in the military for those of you who are conversant with military terms or paramilitary terms. Deblooding means, you're still too human, you're still too social, you're still too, alive. And we need to remove the blood from you, which means we need to teach you how to be really disciplined and really committed to the cause. And I think eunuchs are deblooded. You have to get to a point where all that matters is you successfully reaching your goals. You have to get to that point where at the end of the day, I want to do level 2, for instance. I don't just want to start this course. I want to go all the way. It may cost me a bit, but I want to do it. It's not really about the money. It's about how committed you can be. The third is trusted. Eunuchs were among the most trusted servants in those days. And at the end of the day, you need to be able to work with people that you believe you can trust and are trustworthy, people who have your back, people who will not betray you, people who will not say things about you that are untrue or unfounded. And it's so important because at the end of the day, people can take one small thing and magnify it without even trying to find out what the truth is. Eunuchs are trusted people. Nebuchadnezzar ran a campaign and he delegated a key aspect of it to those he trusted. So that takes us to delegation. Finally, the scripture said he asked those guys, the eunuchs, to pick certain people. That's very deliberate. That's very intentional. Leave little room for ambiguity when you're seeking to become an influence. You cannot keep swaying between opinions on who you should be. Everybody is going to have an opinion about you. Everybody's going to tell you what you should do, how you should do it, where you should go, where you should start, how much to invest. One of the things you're going to have to do is be very specific. Remove ambiguity. Have specific qualities you are looking for in your shared experience pool, in the people you want to engage with, people you want to talk to. Like I said, there are many people out there who do a very good job in training. But you have to be able to say, well, this is someone I'm going to learn from. This is someone I'm going to sit under. This person has been proven for the last 2+ decades. This person has done this in this form. You are being specific about the certain quality of people you want to be able to operate with. So you need to develop deliberate actions. Every day, do something deliberately. Someone once said, if you can do that for 30 days at a go, you've dominated that aspect. And for most of us, when we were students, we had to read every day. And that's because we're students. You're workers, you have to go to work every day. That's because you're workers. But you must dedicate deliberate action to your goals every day. If this is one of them, for instance, then say every day I'm going to do this deliberately. Then have a signature. Have something that says, this is me. This is me. This is who I am. This is my signature move if you're a dancer. Or this is what makes me unique. It could be something aesthetic, right? A lot of people question and ask, hey, why do you have dreadlocks? Well, learn in level 2. If you join the next class, I'll tell you all about what it means to be aesthetic in your convictions. That's another topic completely. But have a signature. Have something that says, this is me. And, there's no compromising it. You're unapologetic about it. Finally, and a good friend of mine, Iben, will be able to explain this better. Understand your avatar. Each of us needs to have an avatar of ourselves. Who we want to be in a corporate environment, who we want to be in a social environment, how we want to appear economically. You create an avatar of yourself and you say, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to achieve. So I've virtually come to the end of level 1. Level 2 is going to be, I know world domination sounds dramatic, but man, is that happening on a huge scale these days. Nobody's local anymore. Whatever you do can reach the world in seconds. And level 2 will talk about this infiltration planning in detail. We'll be talking about reprogramming, character development, character content. I'll be talking about all these characteristics that we saw in verse 4. Is something you really want to be a part of. I'll be talking about understanding the industry, whether it's the arts industry or any other industry you are in, and all the things that are required for that: discernment, resources, understanding predictive patterns and analysis, having hindsight and foresight, and understanding markets and their influence. I'll also be talking more about markets, understanding the emotions of markets, market perception, market need and gratification, and how to take advantage of acknowledgements. Acknowledgements go a long way. And like I said here, ideas are everything. We are nothing without an idea. So where I go is where the idea leads. That's by a very great guy who's one of the mentors I follow, David Lynch. All right, so the next coaching class is going to be a 2-stage one. There are the details there. If you're interested, there will be a pop-up that you can click on very soon, and we'll get back to you. I want to say a big thank you to Sofel Consulting Services, Rich Haven Media, and my friend Temi Tokwe Salu. Thank you, darling, and your team at Growth Tribe Africa. All right, so this is the time where we talk. Your questions, comments, or thoughts. I'm going to ask that you consider now. If you have a question, please let me know. And oh my goodness, there are questions everywhere. All right, if you do have a question, please put up your hand, or you want to, if you've not asked it, you can put up your hand and I'll unmute your mic and we will get some feedback from you if you want. I have just time for 3 or 4 questions. In the meantime, while you're considering your questions, I'll just ask that you quickly fill out what is in front of you. Okay, how can you join the next class? I've just put a poll up there. You will be sent an invitation if you want. As you can see, the cost of the class is there, the fee of the class is there. This has been recorded also. It is available online. It will be on my website. You can always visit it when you have the time. And some of these things will be taught in depth in the next level. It's really important for you to recognize that you have the opportunity to move from where you are to a place of influence. I've had that privilege. I've had that opportunity. You can have the same. So if anybody would like to ask a question or make a comment, this would be a good time. Thank you for listening in. All you have to do is put up your hand. I have a couple of guys here. I want to appreciate your coming into the class today. This is just a free class. There will be several more classes. We have an in-depth class, level 2 starts in June. For as many of you who may be interested, I am running some personal coaching courses also for people here and there. And there is a lot we can do together. All right. So, great. Thank you for your comments. I'm reading them. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Dave. It is thought invoking indeed. Yes. If you are interested in the slides, if you would like the slides of what you've seen today, it's my privilege and pleasure to get it across to you. Who is interested? What you can do is just please let me know. Just send a message or indicate one way or the other. We already have your email addresses from what was recorded. When you registered, we will send it to you. I'm hoping that there will be a new set of people who will come from this class, people who can derive today's truths from proven formulas, especially from the scriptures. I know we went through a lot today, but the slides will help you revise some of the things you've been taught. Yes, I'm taking note of all the guys whose hands are up. I will send you the slides as long as your hands are up within the next 60 seconds or so. We have very limited time. We have about a few minutes left. I'm going to allow you to indicate. I'll get back to you with the slides to be sent to your boxes. And you can decide if you want to take more classes with us. All right, would anybody like to share anything they've got today? Thank you, Neka Obiora. Thank you. Thank you very much, Francis. Thank you, Yemi. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Bayo. Onofua, it's always good to hear from you. Thank you, Femi. Everybody who really desires to go further with what they have, it will be my privilege and pleasure to help you with that. Thank you, Linity. Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, bro. Very, very, very grateful to you all. There is so much more to be taught. Believe me, like I said, I've tried to compress what would probably take 11 to 12 months into 16 minutes. So we're going to have to do a lot more. We can do a lot more. You can do a lot more with whatever it is you've been given to do. You just have to make yourself available to coaching and training, and we can do a lot together. Okay, so it's good to see you, Fred. How you doing, my brother? Always a pleasure. Do you have a question or a comment, sir, before we close? And I will go ahead and just find you where you are. And there you go. Please feel free, sir. There you go.
This has been mind-blowing. I want everything, literally. I want the slides. I'm going to tap into this completely. I'm going to subscribe immediately. This is one of the best training I've been to. Honestly, I'm not exaggerating it. And I'm just letting you know, I'm going to swallow everything. I'm going to use everything, and I'm going to translate everything, adapt everything. So just hope there's no copyright.
Well, coming from you, I'm honored. You've been in the game for a while. We've been talking about this for ages. We do need, I know there are only 8 schools in Ivy League, and I know that if out of this team, I get 8 people ready to really push, there's some incredible things we can do together.
On board. I'm in.
Thank you. So it's only 7 now. There are no more spaces. They're going fast. Thank you so much for joining us, and regards to your beautiful family, sir. Anybody else would like to say anything, please just let me know. Yes, I see all those hands. I will be sending you the slides. No, there's no copyright for this one. I am feeling generous, so no copyright. Osahom, thanks for joining us. Abigail, great. Neka, again, so good to see you. Ire, my beloved, thank you. Nula, I mean, I could go on and on and on. Please fill the poll. We have just 1 minute left. I really do want to respect your time, and then we can always talk later. Thank you all. I see somebody has seconded Fred. I see that the places are going quickly. So if you like any more information, you know what to do. You can either email, let me put it in the chat for everybody so you know what to do. There you go. I'm putting the email address you can send further information to if you want, or All right, did everybody get that? Those are the email addresses. You will also be able to watch what has just happened on YouTube. Yeah, just run a search for Segun Lawal. You'll see it there somewhere. Or I'll send it to your email boxes. Thank you for your time, everyone. It's been a pleasure and a privilege. I have noted every single thing that you've put down, and you'll be getting the materials within the next 24 hours. Enjoy your Saturday. Do some good with this information. Don't let it just be information. I don't train. I don't know how to train. It's transform. Thank you very much, and have a great Saturday, great weekend ahead. God bless you. It is well with you and yours. Thank you.